I may or may not ask some questions, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to make a presentation, give any other information or testimony they want, and then we'll move to the public comment period. And I can go over details of that if we are going to have public comment. Generally, it's 5 minutes per person. And then there's a final opportunity for the applicant to give a rebuttal testimony, answer questions that may have been brought up by the public, things like that. Last word goes to the applicant. So if there's no questions about any of that, we'll get started. All right, so it's 6:01 p.m. and we will start with application CUP 24-0002, Don Reed, Mr. Finkel for the county.
Good evening, Mr. Hearing Examiner. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. As you stated, this is a request by Don Reed for the approval of a privately owned recreational facility. Specifically, said facility will be utilized for the dog agility training activities, indoor and outdoor, on Don Reed's 5-acre parcel of land. I apologize for the technical issues we're experiencing. The subject property is located adjacent to Washington, Idaho state line, south of Holland Road. As I stated, it's a 5-acre parcel of land. Don currently has an existing residence and a barn on site. As you can see, based on the Google Earth aerial map, the property is fairly level. It does have a little bit of rolling slope to it, but generally it's relatively flat. Here's the state line. You have Idaho Road that then becomes Sunrise Lane heading north to south, as well as Holland Road heading east to west. The property has a little bit of vegetation along the south end of the property line and some along the western property line. This photo was taken a while back. It doesn't show the location of the barn. The barn was recently constructed and it's located in this area where the laser is pointing. There's also a field that Ms. Reed created on the eastern portion of her property where she will be doing outdoor dog agility training with her clients. The subject property, as I stated, is zone rural, and the comp plan designation is country. Pursuant to Kootenai County Land Use and Development Code, a privately owned recreational facility may be permitted as a more intense use within the rural zone if it is approved through a conditional use permit process. The applicant submitted a site plan that shows this is the location of the barn that was recently built. This is the residence. I believe there may be a detached garage in this location. This shows the location of the training field. It does have some vegetation along the perimeter of the field. The applicant is also proposing a parking area for her clients near the entrance to the site along Holland Road. The existing residence will not be utilized for any portion of this use. It will be solely for her as a place of residence for Dawn and her family. The public will not be allowed in, and that is one of the requirements of the health department based on the existing septic tank approval for the subject property. What Ms. Reed is proposing, she's proposing daily classes that will be open to groups, as well as private classes that she will conduct on one-on-one with her clients and their animal. And then she will also have at least 4 trials a year that will be conducted in a span of 3 days, and she may have as many as 45 people during the trials. A typical class will have approximately 6 people, and they will be conducted 4 days a week, 3 classes per day, and private lessons will be 5 sessions a day, 4 days per week with 1 individual only. The maximum number of people that will be allowed on the property is up to 540 people, and that will be done during the trials. There will be no overnight camping or RV or tent camping on site. Portable restrooms will be provided for clients. The existing barn that was used for agricultural pursuits will be converted through a change of use permit to allow the public indoors for group classes. These are some of the photos of the property in question. They were taken earlier this year. As you can see, this is fairly flat. She does have a perimeter fence along Holland Road. This is the primary entrance to the site, and in this location, the public will be allowed to park. During the agency comment period, we received comments from the Highway District, Fire District, Community Development, Building Division, Health Department, as well as Sheriff's Office. I think most of the comments are pretty standard. The one restriction, as I stated, Health Department wants the applicant to submit a service contract for portable toilets on site. They are not allowed to utilize the existing residence for restroom purposes because it was permitted based on the number of bedrooms, not considering the public being allowed inside the residence. One of the comments, the comment from the Sheriff's Office was a little bit unique because the Sheriff's Office recommended that the applicant apply for a kennel license. I believe those kennel licenses are renewed on an annual basis. It would be a commercial kennel license. And what it would do, it would basically require that the applicant have proof or allow only dogs with anti-rabies vaccination, that they double bag feces and remove them outside accordingly, and that the animals have water and shade available while they're not performing during trials or not doing their activities. Based on my conversation with staff, we concluded that the comment from the Sheriff's Office, while it is a valid concern and there needs to be some level of review or monitoring, we truly cannot impose a requirement for a dog kennel because typically that's a requirement if dogs are being boarded or bred on site, and Ms. Reed is not proposing either of the two. So what we did is we, instead of forcing a commercial kennel license, what we concluded is that she, as a condition of approval, she just requires that the applicant show proof of anti-rabies for their animal and that she has water available and shade for animals, and that she will do it on her own recognizance of making sure that that is complied with. We received only one comment in opposition of the request. I do want to make a correction. In the staff report, we referenced that there were at least 5 comments. I found out this morning that we inadvertently placed some public comments from another file into the record, and that was our mistake. So Ms. Reed contacted me. We made the correction. We only have one comment in opposition. The concerns were raised with regards to a more intense use within a rural residential community of 5-acre parcels, and we understand the concern. The second concern is obviously barking noise. We understand those concerns. However, we find because the parcel is 5 acres in size and the animals will be monitored by Ms. Reed as well as her clients, and the fact that it will be done in an organized manner, we don't see that being a problem. Moreover, as one of the conditions of approval that you read in the staff report, we decreased the hours of operation from 7 a.m. To 7:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So we actually requested that Ms. Reed have her operation start an hour later. Specifically on the weekends, we don't want dogs running around and barking at 7 a.m. when folks are trying to get some rest. So we contacted Ms. Reed and we explained our concern, and she was amenable to decreasing the hours of operation and increasing quiet hours. The second requirement that we imposed is to have landscaping along Holland Road in the area where parking is proposed to obscure vehicles from the adjoining public right-of-way. With those considerations, we believe that the request is appropriate and will not be a detriment to the surrounding community. With that, I don't have any other information to add unless you have questions for me.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple quick things. So as far as the issue with the kennel or not, and I don't have your proposed conditions right in front of me, are we gonna have language that's saying that shall not be used for a kennel?
That's a good question. We typically do not impose shall not do something if it's not referenced or discussed in the narrative. If she doesn't propose a commercial kennel which would have boarding and breeding, I don't know that there's any reason to impose prohibition of that.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I think a different way to frame it is just that we don't normally list all the things you can't do in a conditional use permit, because if they do it and it's not approved, it's a violation of the zoning code.
Okay, so if they were to start using
We
the
just
kennel, then
notice them as you need to stop until you comply with the applicable regulations.
So one of the issues that could come up if there is a complaint about a possibility of a commercial kennel business being conducted on site, we would do an investigation. If it's confirmed that Ms. Reed is in violation of the approved conditional use permit based on the sideboards of which it was approved, then we could either record a code violation and force her to be brought into compliance, or we would initiate a compliance review to revoke the conditional use permit as it stands.
okay, just want to understand fully how that works, and if, because we're on the record, you'll be able to respond to that when you come up, but so that we have a thorough record and we understand.
It was something else. I just.
Okay, you'll have an opportunity in just a second, I promise, yeah. And then my only other question, I guess, in doing the site visit, yeah, it does seem pretty rural. Perhaps arguably maybe the only property that could be quote-unquote affected would be the one immediately to the east, although stuff is pretty spaced out. Any thought about requiring a condition for landscaping along that edge? I did notice some trees and landscaping going in around there already, but just wanted to know if that was considered.
That is a really good question. And perhaps that's my personal opinion, I do not find dogs training in the field as being as being a blight, if you will. I don't think that would be a detriment to the adjoining neighbors. However, having up to 50 vehicles parked in the parking lot area would seem like an aesthetics issue. That's why we're requiring that Ms. Reed have some landscaping along the northern area of the parking field.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Reed, if you would like to give a presentation or testify, just come on up and state your name and address for the record, and you may proceed.
Yes, my name is Dawn Reed, and I live at 18946 West Holland in Post Falls. I am the owner of the property. I just wanted to say for the record, I may have misheard, but I think I heard Vlad say that there would be 540 people on the property, and that was not correct. I think 45 people. That's a big difference. So I want to make that clear for the record that is not. I think I must have misheard, or I don't know. So anyway, so I'm basic.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. So for the trials, it'll be 45 people max?
Yeah.
Okay.
45 people max, yeah.
Yes, that is accurate. I'm sorry, I misspoke. There will be a maximum of 540 people in the entire year. But
yeah,
at
okay.
once, there will be a maximum of 45.
Okay. Okay, all right, so, I'm applying for a permit in order to run my dog training business at my private residence. My business is, primarily seasonal, and it's conducted, within the spring, summer, and fall seasons, approximately 7 months out of the year. Currently, I have a 24,000 square foot fully fenced area where dog training will be held. And that's on the right there where the training field, it's fully fenced. And in addition, the building right there has been fully constructed, and that's a 40 by 60 enclosed structure where training will be held as well. Just so you guys know, my experience as a dog trainer, I have competed and trained all types of breeds of dogs for over 20 years. I've taught dog agility, basic obedience, and scent work training. I've competed throughout the U.S. and currently hold approximately 6 championship titles with several dogs. These titles are not easy to come by and require many qualifying scores to achieve them. I also competed in the USDAA World Games in 2018 and was a semifinalist. In addition, I also competed at the USDAA World Games in 2022 and was a top 10 finalist in the World Games. In that same year, I also was in the semifinals with my younger dog as well. Participants in the USDAA World Games come from all over to participate, and it's usually Arizona. This includes competitors from the US, Canada, Japan, Europe, and Mexico. I also want to state that I am an American Kennel Club, AKC, Canine Good Citizen Evaluator, or a CGC Evaluator. This title allows me to train and or test for 10 essential skills for well-mannered dogs that they should know. And these skills include like accepting a friendly stranger, sitting politely for petting, appearance and grooming, walking on a loose leash, walking through a crowd, sitting down command, coming when called, reaction to another dog, or supervised separation. All this training is to help ensure that dogs are well-behaved and good-mannered members of our community. The types of dog training activities I want to provide are CGC training, basic obedience, dog agility, and scent training. As Vlad had said, the classes that provide students an opportunity to train their dogs in the class environment with other handlers and dogs. Classes are held for approximately 1 hour, and we'll have 6 people attending. Private lessons, this provides students to work one-on-one with an instructor. These individual lessons are typically 1 hour in duration as well. The trials, which are only held periodically, whereas students would be able to utilize their skills in a competitive environment. Trials are usually 6 to 8 hours in duration and 3 days in length, and typically people that come on the property stay there for the duration and leave. There's not a lot of coming and going in terms of traffic. I just want everybody to know that this is my residence, my private residence, and I take pride in it. It's a private residence, and I do not allow people to randomly come by or to watch or participate. I'm not a dog park. In fact, all my potential participants are screened thoroughly. I first conduct an in-depth phone conversation with a potential student to allow me to assess the dog and the student. Then participants are then asked to fill out and sign a questionnaire which specifically states that their dog or dogs must be fully vaccinated for rabies and current on their vaccinations. In addition, students are asked to provide a CGC or Canine Good Citizen certificate. If they have one, ensure that their dog is not aggressive in any way toward people or other animals. If there is any suspicion of aggressive behavior, new clients are denied classes and are referred out to a behavioralist. I'm not a behavioralist. If all goes well, once they provide this information and they qualify to enter a class, it is then that the student is allowed to enroll in a class and are provided directions to my facility. In addition, I also ask students to sign guidelines to training, whereas all students are required to follow strict rules, some of which include dogs must be on a leash at all times and can be only off leash when they're working in a class. The participants are asked to keep barking dogs to a minimum and be respectful of others. Students are asked to clean up after their dog, and there's a lot of other rules as well. Students are asked to sign these guidelines to ensure that they fully understand my requirements, and if they do not abide by them, then they are asked to leave the program. All training is conducted in the gated field and or barn areas. In addition, students are asked to bring a soft crate to house their dog while in a session, and I also provide crates for students as well. I have a wide range of interests from potential participants, from doctors, professional athletes, professional dog trainers, and other highly respected professionals, as well as anyone who just wants to have fun with their dog. Ages range from 18 to seniors. This is truly a sport for everybody. Other notes, rented porta potty will be utilized with weekly cleaning and will be located as to not be visible on the property. And if there is a trial, more porta potties will be used as well, or rented as necessary. All dog waste is double bagged and placed in a trash can that will be hauled off by solid waste. The facility will not have or include kitchen use, food preparation, or beverage services. My business is located in my home and online, so there are no public going into the residence, and all my training is in the gated field or barn. Students are required to bring their own water, however, a hose bib is provided if necessary, and there's plenty of shade for the dogs because I planted a bunch of trees for shade. So I believe there are benefits to the community in that this provides a fun, safe atmosphere for people to train their dogs. It's good exercise for dogs and people as well. And it helps to create an outlet for dogs by giving them a job rather than them digging holes in the backyard or ripping up bushes, etc. Most handlers agree that after a training session, dogs usually zonk out and sleep peacefully at home. It helps to create a bond between handlers and their dogs and creates well-trained dogs in our community and better trained people too. My intent is not to create a nuisance. I want to offer a private, serene, beautiful, peaceful place for people to come train and bond with their best friend, their dog. Some additional notes is I know that there are businesses that are fairly close around on the Washington side, within a half a mile of my residence. Like there's one on the Idaho side, which is a Post Falls Equestrian Center, and they provide horse boarding and that sort of thing. On the Washington side, there's Zuber Construction, which is excavating, and then they have Mystical Rose Ranch, which provides horse boarding, training, and lessons, and they're located on North Idaho Road. And then there's North Star Enterprises, which provides a full range of traffic control services for local construction contractors who work on roadways. And some of their, so there's a lot of, traffic going through. So it's a little hard for, I don't think that barking dogs will be a problem, and I'll do my best to keep that at bay. But again, my intention is not to be a nuisance. I want to have a really serene, beautiful facility for everybody to learn and grow. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have no questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I do have Maggie Mascari signing up and wishes to speak. All right, just your name and address for the record, and then
Yes.
go ahead.
My name is Maggie Mascari. I live at 3352 North Calais, and that's in Post Falls. We moved here 6 years ago. I was a trainer on a TV show before that in California. We escaped, sorry. And moved up here. And when I came up here, I've been showing in agility for 25 years. The only place that I could find to train was over in Washington, and that was group classes. It was Spokane Dog Training Club. It's a tight facility. It's usually split into two, so you're running it opposite of another dog. My dogs have never been aggressive. I was thrilled when I found a trainer of Dawn's caliber to be training closer to my home and knowing what she's doing. Very structured classes. It's not a wild and crazy place. It's one dog running at a time. It's not two dogs running like Spokane is. And it's a great place. So if you don't know what dog agility is, I've brought a video of one of my guys running in a show. This is a show. This is not at Dawn's house. This is actually in Washington. That's Ziggy, who was on the TV show. So this is a standard course with all the equipment. And Ziggy, who used to be scared to death of people, went to see the person who was jump setting, which he's not supposed to do, but agility has totally changed him. So that's basically what we do. And it does take a lot of training to teach your dog to do that in a show setting where your adrenaline's up, they're excited, you know. It's a wonderful thing for your dog, and it's been a wonderful thing for me. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you very much.
questions? Okay.
Thank you, John.
All right, and sir, and did you wish to testify?
Sorry?
Did you wish to give any testimony?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else from staff, double check Zoom and see if anyone is on there.
If there's anyone on Zoom that would like to speak to this issue, please unmute yourself and go ahead. Apparently not.
All right, so there's no more public testimony. Anything else from staff? All right, any last word?
Can I say something?
You do want to? Just come up to the microphone, identify your name and address, and you can.
My name is Robert Mascari, 3352 North Colary, Post Falls, 83854. Met my wife and our dog, Ziggy, who just performed for you. Not every dog barks when they're training. So barking is hit or miss with the dog. We have a golden retriever also that is very vocal when he trains and when he shows. That's not typical. I'd say 80 to 90% of the dogs that that show and that train are silent when they do so. But there are occasionally we'll have dogs that bark because they're so amped up, they're so excited. And anyway, that's what I wanted to make clear. Also, I don't know if Dawn said this or not, but she does require a rabies certificate in order to participate in her classes. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Someone on Zoom trying to.
Ms. Ward, did you want to try and speak to this issue? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Please give us your name
Okay,
and
sorry. I
address.
was having technical difficulties. My name is Wendy Ward. I live at 19309 East 15th Avenue in Spokane Valley. And I am a professional golfer, or was a professional golfer on the LPGA Tour for over 20 years. And now I teach locally in Spokane and also in Coeur d'Alene for the past 10 years. My husband and I used to own a working cattle ranch where we had border collies and working dogs, and have since retired that and looking for things for them to do because they need a job, as we all know. And a few years ago, I went to an agility show in Spokane, and I absolutely fell in love with that. And I thought that would be such a cool thing to combine my passion with dogs with my competitive background that I did for so many years. And I met Dawn a few years back, and she had mentioned kind of her background in dog agility and how much fun it would be. And again, I just think it would be such a great opportunity to learn from a teacher of her level and expertise here locally in the community. And I think the community as well would benefit from having an opportunity like this. Like Maggie has said too, to exercise and train, to escape, the crazy world and just have a lot of fun and recharge. And I think that, that could be a great place that Dawn is proposing to provide for all of us. And I think the community would support it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, if you would like, you have an opportunity for a final word if you so desire. Ms. Reed?
Again, my intention is not to be a nuisance. I'm trying to do the right thing, and I want the approval from the committee to be able to do this, because I think this would be a really great thing to bring to North Idaho. They have a lot of training in Boise and Spokane and different areas like that, but I don't think that there's anything as what I train that, you know, I'm hoping that will be able to be approved. As far as barking, again, I asked the participants to keep the barking at a minimum. I think Bob was correct, and not every single dog barks. I do my best to curb anything like that, and however, there are dogs and animals that I can't keep from barking, like if there's, you know, barking for fun, or if they see wildlife, a deer, or anything like, you know, a bird or anything on my property, that's kind of hard. Or also a neighbor's dog that's barking as well. So I do know that my neighbor to the east, I guess it's Terry, he's very in favor of, you know, of my, you know, doing this. You know, he's been very favorable. I think he couldn't make it today, but yeah. So anyway, I don't know if there's any other questions or anything else I can help to answer. I just hope that this is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe I have enough information in the file as well as from the testimony today to make a recommendation. So I am going to close out the hearing for CUP 24-0002, Don Reed at 6:33 p.m. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
We should have a recommendation in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'll move us on to a next one. Thanks for your patience. So 6:33 p.m., I'll go ahead and open up the hearing for variance 23-0009 Nipp. Also to be presented by Mr. Finkel for the county.
Once again, for the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. This is a request by David and Cynthia Nipp Family Trust for a front yard variance to the setback requirements in the restricted residential zone. The subject property, it consists of approximately half an acre, and it is located on Twin Lakes. The subject property is waterfront and has some very steep slopes. It is bounded by Cochrane Lane along the eastern property line. I do want to clarify that there is perhaps some confusing information in the record that Cochrane Lane is a private road. Based on staff research and communication with the Highway District, Cochrane Lane is a road that is privately maintained, but it is located within a public right-of-way. So I want to make that distinction very clear on the record because, as you may know, Kootenai County Land Use and Development Code has two different processes for variances. There's an administrative process for a variance request adjacent to a private road, and then there's a public hearing process for a request to setback requirements adjacent to a public right-of-way. Cochrane Lane is located within a public right-of-way. However, it is not maintained by Lakes Highway District. Therefore, staff is here before you tonight because the request has to go through a public hearing process. As you can see, the subject property has very steep slopes. There's an existing residence right near the shoreline. That should the request for a variance to construct a primary residence at the top of the hill be approved, the existing residence will be converted into NLU. As you may know, the minimum the requirements for NLU are that either A, the ALU has to be 1,000 square feet maximum in size, or has to be no more than 50% of the primary structure. Should the variance be approved and a primary residence is constructed, the existing residence will meet either of the two requirements. As I mentioned, it is located in the restricted residential zone. The minimum front yard setback in the restricted residential zone is 25 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance of 15 feet to be within 10 feet of the front property line along Cochrane Lane. These are some of the photos of the project site. As you can see, there's a bench at the top of the property near Cochrane Lane, which is fairly level. And what the applicant wants to do is they want to move as much of the footprint of the residence closer to the road so they have less square footage of the property hanging over the cliff. And that's the main goal, is to keep the residents, keep a majority of the footprint on the flatter portion of the property. This is the proposed residence. As I mentioned, it will be 10 feet from the edge of the front property line along Cochrane Lane. Here's the existing cabin near the shoreline that will be converted into ALU. There's also a couple of sheds, as well as what we consider to be a bunkhouse, which doesn't have any sanitary facilities or water services. With every variance request that has steep slope conditions, we require a geotechnical evaluation, which basically addresses the feasibility of being able to construct on said site. This was one of those cases where the applicant stated that they have an undue hardship because of the steep slopes on site. Gordon Dobler, with Dobler Engineering, provided a geotechnical analysis as well as an addendum to geotechnical analysis with an explanation as to why the request for a variance should be approved, as well as stating that it is feasible with certain engineering requirements for footing and foundation consideration during construction phase. During the public agency comment period, we received comments that were pretty much consistent with what we receive on other variance requests. Really no objection. Highway District had said they have no impact. The project should be approved. The applicant will be connecting to Twin Lakes Sewer District, and I think they will be abandoning the existing septic system on site. They will also be connecting to Kootenai County, North Kootenai Water for provision of domestic water. One of the requirements that we have is that through the construction phase or building permit process, the applicant comply with the geotechnical analysis. It was brought to my attention right before this meeting that in 2018, the applicant applied for what was called a location permit. It was an opt-out process where they didn't have to go through the building permit review. I just want to state on the record that we will still honor the location permit. However, the site disturbance permit would have to comply with the geotechnical recommendations. So that does not alleviate the need for the applicant to comply with the geotechnical analysis if a full-blown building permit is not submitted. They may submit it if they want to, or if they sell the property and a new buyer wants to go through that route. But through the site disturbance phase, they will be required to comply. With that in mind, we did receive only 2 comments, one in support and one in opposition. We do find that there is an undue hardship on site based on the physical characteristics of the property having steep slopes. The request or the hardship is not self-imposed, and therefore the request meets the guidelines for approving a variance. And that the geotechnical evaluation provides extensive reasoning for the approval of the variance request in order to construct a primary residence on site. And I stand for any questions that you have at this time.
Nope. Thank you for your presentation. I don't have any questions. As I said at the beginning, I reviewed the file as well as the geotechnical analysis, so I believe it was pretty thorough and answered the questions I would have had for this. So with that, we do have Jerry Anderson, applicant representative, who may wish to speak. Yes, please. All right, come on up. Please identify yourself for the record and go ahead.
My name is Jerry Anderson. I live at 7739 West Highland Drive, Coeur d'Alene. The owner of the property, due to health reasons, couldn't be here tonight. I'm his architect, and so I'm just here to represent his interests. One of the things I wanted to point out on the public comments, Vlad, you said that there was one comment approving, and it actually said 3 on the screen. It says 3 in support. There's a 1 there, but there's a 3 in front of it.
1
So,
in support.
there's only 1 in support?
Correct, 1 in neutral.
Okay, so the 3 doesn't really mean 3 then?
No, it's just 3.
Okay, all right, that's fine. One thing I would like to point out, can we go, there's the site plan again. How do I get just press the red button?
Yes.
Okay. The setback that's labeled as 10 feet right here is the proposed setback from the property line, which is right there. But the edge of Cochrane Lane is out here. And so the setback from Cochrane Lane itself, in the worst case, which is over here, actually amounts to about 26 feet. And then when we get over to this end of the building, the setback is over 30 feet. And the reason that happens is that Cochrane Lane is offset quite a distance over to the far side of the easement that it is constructed within. So that gives, additional setback area and also further justification, I believe, or we believe, for requesting the variance, given the, the literal cliff that we have here, which is quite unbuildable. The shape of the house has been designed to fit what's left there, and I guess that's really all I know about it. The drain field, which is here right now, is being decommissioned, which I think is a good thing given the proximity to the lake. That's another plus for doing the variance and actually doing the construction, because then we'll be hooked into the community sewer system. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions for you. Nobody on Zoom? Okay, anything else from staff? Okay, I believe I have enough information on which to base my recommendation. So 6:44 p.m. I am going to close the hearing and the record for variance 23-0009 Nipp.